Okay, this is the big one. I know I already said that this week about something else, but no, this is the big one. The Big Ten and the SEC are teaming up to try to reshape college sports. That is the announcement released Friday. One hell of a Friday news dump by the two biggest money conferences in college sports. And Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, the two commissioners, they say they're going to gather input from everybody, but they are going to try to work to create a system that is workable to help resolve some of the challenges facing college sports, whether it's NIL, whether it's the transfer rules, whether it's the fact that the NCAA's rules keep getting challenged in court and the NCAA keeps losing. They insist it's not a breakaway from the NCAA. But yeah, I thought the same thing you did. Super League. That is where this seems headed because these two conferences are different from everybody else. We've spent all week talking about how we're going to replace the term Power 5 because it's not accurate anymore. And we couldn't just go to Power 4 and drop the Pac-12 because the ACC and the Big 12 are different from the Big 10 and the SEC. The Big 10 and the SEC are above everyone else in terms of money and stature and eyeballs and everything else. Well, they have now declared it. They are the Power 2, or as a friend of mine put it this week, big and rich. That is who will be shaping the future of college sports. And probably it's who should be shaping it because those are most of the teams that people watch. Those are the ones that make most of the money. So they will be trying to do this. Now, they say, Sankey and Petitti in a statement said they're open to input from everybody. But there's a reason they didn't ask anybody to join their club. Remember the alliance? The Big Ten, the ACC, and the Pac-12? It formed after the SEC took Oklahoma and Texas away from the Big 12. Remember what it did? It didn't do jack squat except keep you from getting a 12-team playoff a year earlier than you're getting it. But that was a different situation. That was one Bigfoot, the Big Ten, playing a couple of marks, the ACC and the Pac-12, for suckers so that it could get its TV deal done without more competition in the marketplace from an expanded playoff. This is different. This is two equals coming together because their problems are different than everybody else's problems. Now, I remember I said this is the big one the second time. The first time I said this is the big one, I was referring to the state of Tennessee and the state of Virginia. Their attorneys general suing the NCAA over its NIL rules, saying the rules against paying recruits NIL money are illegal. There's going to be a hearing on February 13th in that case in federal court. If a judge grants a temporary restraining order, those rules go away. Now, why is the state of Tennessee so interested in suing the NCAA? Because the University of Tennessee is being targeted by the NCAA. They're being investigated over their recruitment of Nico Iamaleava, their current starting quarterback. It's not just a Tennessee issue, though, and I've been telling you that all week. Every school at that level faces the same potential investigation because while the Nico thing was novel when it happened a year and a half ago, it is now standard procedure. This is how you recruit big-time college football and basketball players. So if you are at a school in the SEC or the Big Ten, you're on the hook for something like this. They can't have that. So they say it's not a breakaway from the NCAA, and it doesn't have to be a breakaway from the NCAA because they're the schools. They make the rules. They can make new rules within the framework of the NCAA and just keep on going. It's just the same. Well, it's a very different thing by the same name, essentially. But it has to be a very different thing. It has to. This case that's going to court is kind of a last straw situation for these guys because they've now finally figured out, I think, they can't beg Congress to save them. They can't keep breaking the law, and they have to do something different. So that's what they've got to do. And for the longest time, like Greg Sankey has been one of the people pushing hardest for a congressional solution, guardrails for NIL. There are no guardrails you can put up. A congressional law that doesn't have any antitrust protection, which it wouldn't, because they're not stupid, would just get kicked in the courts. The only way this works, the only way, is if they share the money with the players and if they collectively bargain with the players. Now, they do not want players to be considered employees, so they're going to work to find ways to not do that. But they may get forced into that by the courts anyway. So if Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti are smart, which I know they are, they're looking at potential solutions where they can revenue share with the players, collectively bargain with the players. Because if you have a CBA, you're not getting dragged into federal court over every little rule. You negotiate the rules with the players agree on the rules, you agree on the rules, and you have rules. If you want a salary cap, you can do a salary cap. If you want movement rules, transfer rules, you can make those as long as both parties agree. And then if somebody takes them to court, the court's going to go, you agreed to this. And that's the end of the case right there. So that's what they've got to do. That's what they've got to figure out how to do. And do you make players employees of the conferences? And if you do that, what's the league here? Is it the FBS with 133 schools where Florida International and Alabama are ostensibly considered the same thing? Well, we know that's not true. We know they're not the same thing. And again, it's the SEC and the Big Ten together. They didn't invite anybody else to their clubhouse. So they're going to make changes that benefit them. And this is why Florida State wants out of the ACC. I mean, all of these things that are happening, the Tennessee situation, the Florida State ACC situation, all of them revolve around the same thing. This is just putting a name to it, but we don't actually have a name. They were very quick to point out it doesn't have a name because they don't want it to be confused with the Alliance, which we just make fun of. But Petitti and Sankey have the power to actually affect real change. They have to understand, though, that everything they've done so far hasn't worked, and there's a reason for that. They can't keep colluding to try to suppress athletes' earning power. That's why everything is failing right now. That's why they can't do anything. Because they'll just get taken to court and they will lose. They should have figured that out in 2021 when the NCAA lost 9-0 in the Supreme Court. They didn't. They kept crying to Congress. They will never get what they want from Congress. If they realize that, that's good. If they don't, they're going to waste a bunch of time. But we'll see what they do. And if it winds up being a 40-team league in the future where they all just play each other, that's not what college football is right now. But it might be a pretty good consumer product. I'm not going to lie. It's something a lot of people would watch. And also, I'm of the mind that you don't all have to be national title contenders. Maybe some programs aren't really equipped to compete. Maybe they don't have the resources. Maybe they don't have the fan following. And that's okay. If everything just finds its own level and everybody plays at their own level, that's fine. You don't need to have this artificial construct with 133 teams where we pretend the ones at the top are anything like the ones at the bottom. So Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, go fix this. Quit whining at Congress. You make a lot of money. You're very intelligent. Fix it yourselves. Took you long enough. Now you're going to start doing it. So go fix it. Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples on 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.